squeeze your supply down, which is why we're deflationary, and you can increase the capital that's coming in, then you create this J curve. And actually more volume creates a faster J curve later on. More volume models work mathematically. But on top of that, we recognise that owning MDB in this capital synergy system is one thing, but actually you can also accelerate that squeeze process, make it much sooner. And you saw that. We launched that squeeze process, and I think we had like 40% of our supply went into the single staking pool instantly almost. And then you saw people opening up farm positions, and even though the farm's getting close to 1 million TVL now, it's still paying out about 200%. I think, I'm fairly comfortable that the farm will pay out between 150 and 200% for the foreseeable future. So Xenia is where you go, and she makes you happy.
Beautiful, and so that just allows you to have your own DApp, have everything in house. The volume takes care of you. I wanted to ask you a quick question on what you just said, just for anyone that doesn't quite understand the economic side of things. You mentioned the J curve and why volume matters with MDB and with the curve. Can you like break down a little more clearly why volume actually helps MDB and holders?
Yeah, so I suppose because there's a buy and sell tax. When those taxes they go to receivers, and then when the receivers are triggered, those taxes are then split up. It pays for our operations, a very small part. Then the next largest part, it pays the rewards on Xenia. And then the vast majority of those taxes collected then feed into the trust fund. The trust fund is invested across a varying profile, different risk levels, and then that trust fund is used to buy and burn back supply. So yeah, and the reason I talk about that J curve is because I'll give you an example, right? So our trust fund is currently, really basic example, our trust fund is currently 2 million. Yeah, our price is, to use a round number, our price is say 1 cent right now. Let's say 1 cent. Our price is, so if we have a 90% crash, which isn't that unusual in DeFi actually, right? But it'd be very difficult to do in our protocol. But say for instance, everyone's lost their minds, they're not happy, they hate Danny, they want to sell, and we had a 90%
down with Danny.
Yeah, down with Danny. The pitchforks are out. It will come one day. And there's a 90% drop. Now, with our supply currently at 840 million, if there was a 90% drop, so now we're at 1/10 of a cent, that would mean that our market cap has gone from, say, 8.5 million down to 850,000. And the trust fund could buy 10% of its own supply for like $80,000. Now, that would cause a huge spike, naturally, because of the impact then on the LP. And it wouldn't recover the price completely, 90%, but it would certainly make it probably ×2 from that point. But in that situation, there is now 10% less tokens in supply. So the protocol longer term would be much healthier, because then if people said, okay, well, now MDB is really cheap, look how much money is in MDB versus how low the price is and how low the market cap is. I don't think this scenario is possible, by the way, because I just don't think psychologically people would let it happen. But if it was allowed to happen because, the pitchforks are out or whatever, at this point, people would realize that if the Phoenix can now halve supply very quickly, and only using, say, I don't know, 10% of her funds, and then puts the price almost back where it was, then people realise that suddenly there's a very easy ×5. And because she bought half of the supply and then burns it, it now means that there's not 843 million, there's now 421.5 million. So your one token now has a much bigger market share in the ecosystem. And
right.
That's basically what we mean. So when we run the mathematical models, and I said this a lot, and I told everybody to sell their cat. If we ever went below pre-sale price, which we did for small amounts of time twice during the big sort of crisis drops, I said to people, just sell everything you own. If it goes, and people said, well, I'm not going to do that, and nobody bought. And I said, and sell everything. And the reason is because if in the mathematical model, nobody bought. If you have the biggest crashes of all, then that J curve, the growth curve, would just get steeper faster. It would actually have a bigger, longer term, a positive long term impact because of the crash.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean, that breaks it down. I just want to make sure that everyone listening understands the way that your entire system works with, and when you say trust fund, I mean, because you do have a fairly unique build in the way the ecosystem is all like everything wraps back into itself. And when you say trust fund, that's essentially your guys' take on an active liquidity pool, a liquidity pool that you're actually
no, that's the treasury.
the treasury. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the treasury.
So the way the system is designed, that the trust fund or treasury has a significant bearing over the liquidity pool size.
Right. Beautiful.
Yeah. So I think next you guys also rolled out capital synergy. Am I right? So can you give a brief overview of that and what exactly it entails?
The synergy solutions, is that what you're asking, Pi?
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Synergy solutions. Yeah, because capital synergy we did touch on briefly. Maybe because look, Apex has taken the time to join and I'm doing all the talking. Maybe I'll let Apex have a couple of minutes to talk through what synergy solutions is and how it works. Is that all right, Apex?
We'll see if he unmutes.
Yeah, sure. So synergy solutions, as in the B2B.
Correct.
Yeah. So, in lieu of not sounding stupid, just get me started and then I'll finish.
Look, I've put you on the spot. It's not fair. So Synergy Solutions is effectively our B2B applications. And so, MDB Plus is a utility that we use ourselves. And, 40% of our LP is paired with MDB Plus, which means it cannot go down. It can only go up. And that's one of our secrets of success. We work with other partners who can then also use MDB Plus as a pair within their own ecosystem. So EMP created a pair. We've got a pair on Cone actually working with USD Plus. And we've got a couple of projects that have said they're going to use it as a liquidity pairing as well in the same way we do. So that's one element. But we do a number of other things as well. So Gravity is probably the most used because of the difficult market. We've got 2 projects that we've gravitied in the last week, and we've gravitated 5 in total now. And really, when a project reaches the natural end of its life cycle, and we pioneered this. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not accepting it. We gravitated our first project on the day we launched, so there's no way.
I remember you announced it here. You guys announced it in the House of Obsidian. I was stoked to be like the first person hearing that.
Oh yeah. Oh god, yeah. That's a long and Jen was here as well, wasn't she?
Jen was here.
Wow. Yeah, now she's bounced. But so yeah, look, I think one thing I would say is that when you gravity a project, you're rescuing something that has reached the natural end of its life. There's often fantastic team members, there's fantastic community members. Quite often the type of investors that any project wants are the loyal people at the end rather than the flippers at the very start, and there's quite often some resources there, but it's very difficult once you've reached kind of that bottom for probably 99 out of 100 projects to ever recover from that, quite frankly. And Gravity offers a second chance. We've gravitated, like I say, 5 projects now. For the projects that we can measure or the tokens that we can measure the upside, the average upside for a holder that's come across from a Gravity project has been plus 230% actually. So that's part of Synergy Solutions.
Wow.
And we also offer an NFT service. We've got a big announcement coming actually. Big announcement. We've got 2 huge announcements tomorrow. A big partnership announcement tomorrow. I can't say what it is, but you'll probably get it because I've stopped right at NFTs. And we offer a full design to mint sort of, I suppose, let's call it a managed service on NFTs as well.
Beautiful. And with Gravity, I mean, yeah, we were sitting here while you guys announced the first Gravity project. I saw a question in the chat earlier from, I think, Massimo, who I've seen you and him like joke back and forth as he's saying, convince me to buy MDB. He was asking, how does the Gravity project benefit MDB with the fact that the project that you guys are essentially taking in has reached the end of their life cycle or is failing or is at their lowest price point? Because we see where it benefits their members, right? You just said the average one basically comes up 250% when they come into the MDB community and collective. But where is it actually benefiting you guys by doing that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and credit to our community because I think a lot of communities would maybe struggle with it, but our community loves gravity. They've been through the process numerous times, and there's so many different benefits. So, from a pure financial perspective, it's a bit touch and go on most of them, to be honest. However, we swallow risk on nearly everyone we do, and
Hmm.
we accept that risk because we believe, even though we have to model it on the basis that you're going to bring on these holders and most of them are just going to sell and then leave. Well, actually, any volume is good, so that helps. But in truth, our belief in people means that we believe that some of those holders will stay and they'll be great. They'll be great additions to the community long term. And there's many people even in this chat right now that have come through gravity projects. I always say, of our top 20 holders, I would say at least half of them have come through gravity projects.
Wow.
We've got people that work for the team. We've got people that create content for us.
So aside from like money, just as like if you take the financial aspect off the table as far as how it benefits you guys, it has been a huge asset just for growing and increasing the quality of your community and your team itself.
Absolutely, and I think the reason, and a few we come up against a few projects who are trying to do a similar thing, but if I'm very frank, I think they, in many cases, they're trying to get some liquidity to keep their own show on the road a little longer, which unfortunately for the holders is kind of out of the frying pan and into another fire. And I think because of where gravity came from, because our reason for it has to work for your holders, it has to work financially, because you can't dump on your existing investors on some compassionate crusade, right? And people understand that has to make business sense. But the driver for it, and sometimes it's really difficult. We've done like one small one, it was so annoying, I'll be honest. And you stop and you remind yourself, look, this might not move the needle for us, but there's a reason we do this, and you remind yourself of that and you move forward. And so I think that bleeds out, personally, I think that bleeds out into the community, because the people that come across quite often are delighted to be in this new vibrant community. Often they're being met by people that came across themselves a couple of months ago. And you go into our chat, our largest holder will be telling you how to buy something on Xenia, and so I'm probably being a little bit emotional with it, but it has a huge sort of like emotional bonding impact on all of us, I think.
Well, because
I
for
can
you,
attest to that. The community is solid.
yeah, exactly. I was going to say for you, it's almost more about the people, it sounds like, than it is about just acquiring another project into your fold.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We try and stay away from the word acquire if we can.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you on that. You said a minute ago, you're like, I will die on this hill. We're the first. We created the gravity concept. What about gravity differentiates it from, like, you've heard the term acquisition protocol, obviously, and even before DeFi, you've heard of large companies acquiring smaller companies or companies that are struggling. What makes gravity different from acquisition?
Yeah, and I suppose the difference is that typically we a project that quite famously ran into troubles pre-launch. I think it was one of your projects. It was Villages Finance. A lot of people won't know this. They came to us before they famously rugged, and they said, "Hey, would you like to take us over? Would you like to buy us out?" And we said, "Well, that's not what it's about. This isn't about cash. Give the money back to your holders." And so our focus is really where people, and it's a really hard space to be successful in that, and we're super lucky to have the protocol that we've got. And so it's not surprising that so many projects fail, and because it's a really tough space, really competitive, it's about helping out where it hasn't worked out. And actually, DFirm, Lucky Seven, if there's anyone here from those communities, like shout out to you guys, because it was so soon after the launch, we actually said, okay, well, it's the first one we've ever done. You've got the option to take MDB or stables, because it's just too close. It's too close for comfort for my liking. And that's probably another example, quite frankly, where the upside for us individually maybe from a business point of view, isn't really there, but we care about the space and we like to see positive outcomes. And do you know what? There'll be one person from that community that falls in love with MDB, and in a year's time, they'll just be like, you know what? I'm so glad I did this, and it changed my life. And that makes any effort worth it for me.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, really solid answer. I like the mindset. I appreciate that it's not acquisition just for the concept of like, haha, we're acquiring the little bit that's left in your dying treasury. That's not the goal for you guys at all. And it is interesting that, I mean, I see people in the chat right now that are referencing that like, hey, I came from Gravity and I'm a large holder and big supporter of MDB. And so the proof is in the pudding right there, that you guys have committed community members that are also committed investors that are here simply because you guys went through the work of not just acquiring a protocol, but essentially adopting a community at the same time.
Definitely. Well, one that we're doing right now, I'm pretty sure this is public information, 80% of their liquidity is locked for 7 months, but we're going to front that from our own funds and wait for that to unlock to make it happen. I think the amount that's unlocked is so negligible. In truth, if you had your finance director sat with you, they'd say, don't get involved with this. It doesn't make sense on the spreadsheet, but you know, but that's where you've got to draw on the reason why you do something rather than just being, you know, just about numbers on a page.
Yep, exactly. Real quick before I ask my next question, I saw someone say, what's the best way to get involved with MDB? The best way right now is to, as you're listening to this, is to ask questions that you would have the second you go into their Discord and start trying to pick apart a white paper. Because right now you can ask the questions that you would have while reading a white paper. Other than that, get in their community. I mean, Danny just mentioned that they're going to have a massive announcement tomorrow about the direction of MDB moving. Two massive, huge announcements. I don't even know what they are. So,
well, we glazed over partnerships, didn't we? Obviously, we've got a partnership we've got a pair on Cone, we've got a partnership with USD Plus, we've got a partnership with Sphere. Some of our bigger partnerships, we've got a partnership with Yield Nodes. Obviously, they've got 400 million TVL. You'll find Little Old Us on their website. We're invested there as well. We are announcing a partnership tomorrow with another organisation that has about 175 million. Partner with EMP. EMP is a much bigger protocol than us as well. Much more sort of liquidity locked in their system than in ours. So yeah, we've done fairly well with help of community members as well. Sort of like building sort of connections with members as well. So we've done fairly well at sort of punching above our weight.
Yeah, I mean, really solid. I think it's funny, you hear for a minute there, it felt like partnership became the next DeFi buzzword because dude, everyone, and I was getting probably 20 DMs a day from people saying like, hey, can we partner with Obsidian? I was like, what does partner even mean to you? Like, you want to use our service, or like you want to do an AMA? Like, partnership, it was just like any kind of interaction ever became, let's be partners. And so I think part of the beginning of that buzzword, you guys were establishing partnerships before it became a buzzword that are actual partnerships. And I think the key to that is, are you building together in some capacity? Is there any kind of mutual benefit happening? Or is someone just using one of MDB's services, right? And so you guys ran with partnerships before it became a buzzword. And maybe you guys that might have been one of the forks that followed MDB is, well, now everybody needs partners. So I think you guys have done great with that. I was going to say, before I ask about Infinity, which is launching next week, I was going to ask, just because I saw a few more questions in there about like, hey, there's a lot that we're unpacking. There's MDB, there's MDB Plus, there is Phoenix Plus, there's Infinity next week, there's NFTs. Like, there's so much happening. Is there, for someone who is interested in joining the ecosystem that you guys have built, but they're not really sure where to start, where should they start as far as like the safest place to be? Or that's a tough word in DeFi, or like the highest yield? Where would they want to look in the ecosystem of MDB? What should they be prioritizing if they can't buy 6 different things?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think I think you know, taking your stables and plonking them into our stable backed assets, either one of them, quite frankly, is not a bad thing to do. There isn't you won't find many assets anywhere in the market where you can go on BSC scan and see the BUSD that backs every token in circulation plus $1 locked in the contract. There isn't many out there like that, and that's both of our stable backed assets like that. So if you're in our community as well and you're holding USDT or whatever, just you've gone mad. Just put it in one of our stable backed assets, and that's the safest play. If you wanted like a few days to get your head around the MDB ecosystem and get a feel for the community, that's what I would do. Start off with, and but MDB has the largest sort of potential upside, and everything we will do in the future is always about driving volume, driving up the burn, and also the value of MDB as a token. So it's based on an AMM, so it has some downside risk. It's almost because it is DeFi, impossible for it to run to zero because of the design of it. Even if it ran very low in that scenario I described before, it would eat so much of its supply that actually the inherent value of every token perversely would get greater over time. So but the upside potential of MDB is significant. It's done a times 4 and a bit from pre-sale. And because BNB's been really tough for the last few weeks, we've just been smashing daily all-time highs against BNB as well. So yeah, even in a difficult market, we've been moving in the right direction. But if you want to put some money into something that people talk about 2 years in DeFi, I think it's a bit of a buzzword, but I think even in 6 months, you'll see, you've got a great chance of fantastic returns. Not financial advice. MDB. 12 months, 2 years, then the potential, do the math of having 200 million tokens in supply and say a trust fund that is worth maybe 10, 15, 20 million, then the mechanics are insane at that point.
So if I was speaking of your stable backed assets, so say right now I've got, I don't know, a little bit in stable coins. I've got 10K in UST. My favorite stable coin. Just kidding. If I wanted to put that in MDB Plus, just to address general fears, I think after situations like UST, someone hears the word stable backed asset and there's a hesitation to trust it. What is the risk factor? What would cause MDB Plus to go wrong? Because the pitch that you guys have used that I've heard is it's essentially the goal is a stable coin that slowly moves up and cannot go back down. And so how is that possible? What is the thing that would quote unquote depeg or derail MDB Plus and make it not stable?
The only thing that could happen would be if BUSD went down. That's it.
Okay.
Because the BUSD is 100% collateralized plus $1, so it's over collateralized by BUSD. The MDB Plus that you own at any time has BUSD locked in the contract, and there is one way of getting that out, by redeeming MDB Plus for it. And when you redeem your MDB Plus, you pay 0.25% tax. You pay 0.75% going in. So it's there. Once your BUSD is in that pot, there's only one way it's ever coming out. So yeah, BUSD going down is the only way that could happen.
Right. So if you were someone that got hit by the UST failure or something, I would say, I'm not going to break into the details, but I would say look up the difference between an algorithmic stable coin like UST and exactly why that happened, and the difference between something that is fully backed and collateralized by a current stablecoin like BUSD. And there's that risk always exists. Could BUSD die? Yeah. But I would say, and pretty much anyone in this space would say, the top 3 most trusted or backed stablecoins right now, BUSD is in that list, and they're fairly equal. That would be USDC, BUSD, and DAI. And so, cool. If the only way for USD Plus to fail is for BUSD to fail, then that's pretty sweet.
Indeed.
Well,
and
let's
it can
talk.
only go up in value.
Yep, exactly. And that's your goal is to consistently just drive that up in value. Right.
Indeed.
I said,
Right, so
someone said that I said
infinite
USD Plus, not MDB Plus. My bad. I meant MDB Plus. Let's talk about Infinity launching next week.
Aggressive shilling.
So Infinity launches in a week.
Yep.
Let's talk about the next piece of the puzzle for MDB, which is Infinity. Shill the heck out of it.
Well, everything that we talk about in our system is all very sensible, and it's we can talk about the mechanics and why tomorrow is going to be a better day. Infinity would just be absolutely insane. It's absolutely insane. It's as a massive trust fund to LP ratio, more than 20-1. It has very low taxes, so those two things mean that you have huge volatility with a skinny LP, and you've got the ability to trade that volatility because the taxes are very low at 5%. The way the buy and sell taxes work on it, 40% actually feeds back into the LP, which is Phoenix Plus. So Phoenix Plus is a really aggressive version of MDB Plus where there's a 2% buy and sell tax, but it's growing even though the TVL's just jumped up to about 1 million because the pre-sale is in Phoenix Plus. So people are like, right, well, I'm going to buy my Phoenix Plus now because my pre-sale will actually be cheaper by the time it comes around because that can only go up in value as well. Phoenix Plus will be the pair for Infinity. So those buy and sell taxes, 40% of them are feeding into Phoenix Plus. That TVL is going to drop quickly because a large proportion of the Phoenix Plus is going to shoot out of there for the pre-sale, and then it's going to be go, and you've got this huge volatility, low taxes. The other 60% of the buy and sell taxes then feed into the Infinity Fund. The Infinity Fund, we've got some really aggressive investment options, but also have met pretty stringent sort of testing and safety profiles, and so it just means you're going to have this token that's an absolute monster. But it doesn't stop there because you've got 3 strategies with it. You can take a super safe strategy, and not as safe as MDB Plus, but pretty safe when you look at the mechanics of the model, where you could just buy an NFT. There's 300 Infinity NFTs, and it will just it's like owning 5,000 Infinity tokens, and you can state, or that it will actually be auto staked. In fact, you can just go and claim rewards from Xenia. The other way is to stake. You could buy Infinity and then stake it, and part of the earnings from the Infinity Fund and the taxes will be used to buy MDB and distribute MDB to the stakers equally. So if you've got an Infinity NFT, you have the opportunity for that NFT to appreciate with the appreciation of Infinity on the open market. You also have the ability to earn MDB tokens by just staking your Infinity, or you can trade it, and there will be, like I say, significant volatility. And you've got this LP that our models predict that Phoenix Plus is going to run into 4-figure APY around Infinity launch. How long that goes on for depends on the size of the TVL, but because we've got contract functions which cash out Phoenix Plus to MDB Plus without confusing everybody, it means that we can force volume with Phoenix Plus. Has this very unique mechanism. So it's this collection of very unique systems which actually is designed, it's very attractive just to have an NFT or to just have some Infinity and stake it. And that means that you've got a lot of temptation to lock up a large amount of supply, but then you compound the fact that a small amount of supply, only a small amount of supply is out on the open market, and then you've got this huge ratio and a skinny LP. The volatility potential is insane. Not financial advice. On launch day, multiple X's is guaranteed almost. 5, very possible. 10, not impossible. But what goes up very quickly can come down quickly. So, if you fancy yourself as a trader, it could be a fantastic opportunity, but it comes with risk at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And if someone was wanting to get involved with the Infinity launch, is there a whitelist to do that, or is it a fair launch? How would they get involved with the Infinity token or NFT?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the NFTs will be public sale, actually. So there's only 300. There'll be $1,000 each. But like I say, they lock in 5,000 Infinity tokens at launch price, actually. So it's locked in. So if Infinity did a ×10, then dropped back down to a ×5, then that gives you an indication of maybe the future value of that NFT on the open market, because that will earn staking rewards. Staking rewards are distributed based on the number of tokens, right? So that's completely open if you want an NFT. If you want to be on the whitelist, then there's a very simple method. You can become a VIP within our server. A few friends of Obsidian Council are VIPs. I know there's many members of Obsidian Council, but even James Pelton's a VIP actually. And you just have to buy and hold 1 million MDB tokens, which wasn't a lot 4 or 5 weeks ago, but now it's sort of 11,000. That will get you a 5k allocation actually for Infinity. If you buy and hold about $500 worth ish, it's a bit more than that at the moment because of the way the threshold works. But you can enter the Millionaires Club, which has no end of benefits, to be honest. But one of the short-term benefits is that you can get a 1k allocation through Infinity. Or we're also giving out some whitelist spaces to Infinity partners. So we've already announced Grey Market. We've got a big announcement tomorrow, and we've already announced EMP as well. So if you're in the VIP circles of those projects, then you also should be able to get a hold of some allocation. We've got 100 spaces that we're putting out to the community. There's 20 a day being given away for 5 days. Pre-sale is on the 13th, so it's coming really fast. But yeah, for the next few days, there's still 20 spaces a day that can be won just by supporting the community, taking part in competitions, stuff like that.
Beautiful. And I saw Craig asked in the chat, what's the benefit of buying the NFT over buying the same cost in Infinity tokens?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we had this with MDB, by the way, because it's the Phoenix Fire Club NFTs basically, give you a right to a certain amount of MDB because you've got 1/500th of all of the MDB basically backing it, that's in the NFT contract. And we had this question a lot, and it's a completely fair question. The difference being is that there will be 10 million Infinity tokens at launch. They will burn down, but it's not a rare asset. So it's very liquid. That's the pro side of it. So you could sell half, or you can't sell half of the NFT. But at the same time, the NFT is so low in number that if 290 of the holders don't want to let go of it, then you've got both the inflationary value pressure of the Infinity that's locked in the NFT, and also the rarity factor. So you've potentially got something, and you can already see it, right? We've seen it with MDB. If you bought one for $750, you've already probably made back about $120 in rewards just for holding it for a couple of months, and you could go and sell it on the open market for $1,500. And the Infinity NFT is designed with the same method in mind, so that you can earn from it, but it is also a secondary asset that you can sell on the open market.
And how much does the Infinity NFT cost if you're lucky enough to get one of those on a public sale? Yeah, that does.
Is it just me that can't hear anybody?
Can you hear me now? What the heck?
Hello?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Matthew.
So for some reason, Danny can't hear us?
Yeah, I think that's it.
If you're in the chat, can you hear me? Beautiful. They say they can hear us. So for some reason, Danny and I can't hear each other.
I don't think you can hear me too.
Can you hear us,
hello?
Apex?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us? What the heck? Let me send him to the audience and then invite him back up.
Apex, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah. All right. So I think it's just a problem with Danny.
Yeah, maybe just having some audio issues.
Yeah.
I invited him back to the stage.
Hello.
Does that work? Can you hear us, Danny?
No.
Dang it. What is going on? I had so many more good questions for him. Let me DM him.
I think he just needs to reset his audio. Sure what the problem is.
Yeah, I'm sliding into his DMs. Now I'm just chatting in the main chat right now. We'll save the DMs for later. Apex, do you know the answer to that question, what the price for the NFTs are?
Yeah, it's $1,000 for the new NFTs will be $1,000.
Okay, cool,
I
easy.
think it's in Phoenix Plus to purchase the NFT.
Perfect. Can you hear us, Danny?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Boom, there it is. I don't know. We
There
could
we
hear
go.
you talking, and
Oh, really?
Apex could hear us, and I think the audience could hear both me and you, but for some reason you couldn't hear us. Just Discord bugging out.
Yeah, strange. I hope I didn't swear.
No, you're good. I'll just
All right.
have for the recording later. I'll have someone cut that awkward like, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" like Verizon commercial there for a solid 2 minutes. But yeah, that answered the question perfectly. And Apex answered if people are interested in trying to get that on the public sale, it's $1,000 in Phoenix Plus in order to buy the NFT.
Indeed.
Beautiful. I love it. I feel like I've asked my questions and tried to weave in some questions for like an hour now, but I know that there's some questions in here that we didn't get to. There's a million from the audience. I'd love to just shoot some audience questions at you. The first from Massimo, he said, "What is the selling point to convince an investor to choose MDB Plus over something like USD Plus?"
That's a good question. I think there's slightly different models, and actually, we're working with those guys, and even exploring further sort of deep, integrations. Is both have their strengths. MDB Plus, MDB Plus, is you can see the backing token in the contract. That's something that's very rare. Whereas clearly you can't see that in USD Plus. But they have other benefits, right? There's zero tax on their system. But I think because I think on average our system delivers slightly more APY, but it does come with a small tax for using it as well. So I think they're both very strong options. But I would say, yeah, our single USP. Versus say them would be that you can actually see the BUSD there locked in the contract.
Cool, beautiful, sweet. Next from jump in, Pi.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are asking. I think it was Kwong Chin and another one. Thanks to they read in the white paper. Thanks to capital synergy, even if there's zero volume, the value of the token would still increase. I think they're confused as to how that's possible. Perhaps
What, with Infinity or with MDB?
with MDB in general.
Yeah, well, both of them work on the capital synergy model. Very different tokens, very different systems, but both of them use capital synergy. And what that means is, the way LPs work, if there wasn't a single buy or sell, then the protocol would be buying and eating supply. If you're reducing supply and you're pumping in the amount of capital on the BNB side, or on Infinity, it'll be the Phoenix Plus paired with Infinity. If you're pumping in the amount of Phoenix Plus versus the amount of Infinity in the LP, then it has an exponential impact on price. Actually, Infinity has the potential for like 10x without a single buy or sell. But that doesn't happen, right? It goes up, people will sell it. People have put money in, they want to take profits. And when they sell it, then that offers opportunities for other people to buy. So, that's how the system works. It would, if nobody ever bought and sold MDB Plus, then it would grow like thousands. But that's never going to happen because of human nature.
Cool. Yeah, good answer. Next one's a little more personal question. Ozzy said, "Danny, how does it feel to be a doxed individual in such an anonymous space?"
That's a good question. To be fair, I think I probably built it up to be more than it was. And I think most people are just like angry little keyboard warriors, and
yes,
and I think if you're sensitive, then I would understand why. If someone said, I've had people message me, and there's one guy, shout out to my man Carsten, who bought our high after launch and then tried to basically, I don't know what you'd call it, extort me, pay me, or I'm gonna do something. And I'm quite thick-skinned. I've been around the block, so I'm just like, yeah, screw you. But I could understand if you were like sensitive, that would be really unnerving. There's one guy, I think he was from like On-Chain's Discord, who just send you like millions of scam in a message.
Yes.
And actually, like for me, I'd respond and say something like, "Do you touch yourself whilst you're doing that?" And whereas messaging Mina, who's, a female, and it's quite unnerving for that individual. So
Right.
some weird stuff goes on, but quite frankly, I don't, I just think whatever.
I feel the same way. I mean, welcome to the Doxed Club. Most of the time, it's totally normal. And then every now and then, when someone gets pissed off because they can't take accountability for their own actions and they want someone to blame, they say some pretty weird stuff. And I've had like some weird threats or weird comments that it's like, kick rocks. You're not gonna do anything.
I remember the last Infinity DeFi, Infinity AMA. A guy called Guardian of DeFi joined in and then started calling everyone infidel. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, I've seen that guy around. I kicked him from our Discord server. He tagged me and you, Danny. I don't know what our like connection is that he was going after both of us, because we haven't had an AMA in 4 months, but he was coming after both of us, probably just because we're doxxed. So that kind of stuff happens all the time. But other than that,
he's outed himself as an MDB maxi now. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. Next question, not about anonymity, from Martin. He said, do you guys intend on, so obviously you said earlier that like NFT wasn't necessarily in the roadmap. You guys did it with the initial NFTs. Now you're doing it with Infinity. Do you intend on printing any more NFTs for either of those collections, or once they're done, they're done?
I think we're going to put them all as one collection.
Okay.
And just because it helps. Look, if there was one thing that I could change, if I could go back in time, I would have had NFTs as part of our launch.
Okay.
When you combine the mechanics of our NFTs with the deflationary nature of our system, the inflationary nature of the funds and the way we invest them, it's huge. If we went out to market and raised $2 million in NFTs and then combined that, it was like another range, but then combined it into MDB, I think we could probably times 5 the price of MDB overnight, and it would be as sustainable as we are at this very moment because of the way the mathematics work. So yeah, I think we've got a lot going on at the moment, and I'm happy that over the past 5-6 weeks we've made a lot of people a lot of money, and that's what we're here to do. And I think Infinity needs to take hold, but I think if there's one thing that we wanted to go to that would be a massive game changer, it would be having another full NFT range that maybe operates in a slightly different way. But yeah, I'll be honest, it's something that mathematically it's an absolute monster. So I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't do it. But we want to make people a load of money first before we start asking people for money.
Sweet. Yeah, makes sense. Next question from Cosmo. He said he was asking about the Gravity program, and we answered most of the stuff as far as the Gravity program goes earlier in our conversation. But one was, how many projects have you guys brought into the fold with the Gravity program?
We've token wise, so we've brought projects. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So projects it's now 5. Tokens it's 6.
Okay, cool. 6, love it. Next question from Marvin. He said, do you guys plan on introducing any tokens that take MDB cross chain off of BSC?
Yeah, we are exploring how we could use MDB plus cross chain. But yeah, so MDB plus I think is the simplest place to start, because that opens up more opportunities for synergy solutions. Yeah, so that's certainly what we're looking at the moment. I think look, there's many. Jesus, it's like a DeFi buzzword bingo, isn't it? You could almost. I might sell copy and paste white papers. Everyone can do a DEX. Everyone's going to go cross chain. Everybody has to get on CoinGecko because it will save them, even though 99% of projects on CoinGecko fail. So I think we'll do things if it makes financial sense for our investors.
Sweet. Yeah.
I had a question. This is personal, but what's next after Infinity? Because I think that was the end of your current roadmap.
Yeah. What's next after Infinity? Well, we're in a very lucky position actually, where we've I think we've delivered for investors. Like everything that we've launched is up significantly. The things that have more risk perversely are up way more than things that are low risk. And Infinity, we're definitely committed to doing the same thing. And then it's really about expanding. I think once Infinity's in, then we've got something that's very robust, solid. We've got scale in terms of the funds in the organisation, and we've got a broad range of assets to offer people. And then we've got these B2B solutions that I can then focus a lot of time on expanding that side of things. And then really we're looking beyond that sort of 6 months plus to then using that experience on the B2B side in DeFi to then build sort of blockchain built models for mainstream finance and payment applications. So there's a direction that we're trying to go.
Beautiful. Next question from Martin. He said, can you go any, and I guess this is a two-part question, but can you go into any detail about your partnership with Sphere? You two are my favorite projects, and I would love to hear about why you're partnered and what your plans are together. And then, actually, we'll ask the next question later. So just Sphere specifically, why you guys partnered together, how is that benefiting both of you?
Yeah. Well, how does it benefit the both of us? So I think at a transactional level, we've both invested in each other. We invested, a decent sum within Sphere. We own, as a protocol, maybe 4 million tokens around. The Sphere have invested in MDB, and I think own maybe a similar amount actually by pure coincidence, around maybe 4 to 5 million tokens of MDB, and also invested in MDB Plus to then set up the pair on Cone. So we listed on their exchange. I think there's more that we could be doing on that exchange. I think there's definitely more we could be doing with them, but it's always challenging when something's brand new out of the gate. And we've co-invested in each other. I think there's other sort of collaborations. We talked about them supporting us on our journey to go cross-chain, and we just kind of have to see how that plays out. But we've definitely already delivered on most of the objectives of the partnership.
Cool. Yeah. Rad. Babik asked about partnerships in general. He did reference EMP, but just essentially, what is the point of building out partnerships with other protocols, especially people that could be seen as quote unquote competitors with you? Where is the value in choosing to partner with somebody instead of competing with them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you have to think. We talk about buzzwords in DeFi. You go into the real business world. Strategic is a buzzword,
Yep.
And strategic in a nutshell means being able to see the bigger picture, maybe over the short-term gains. Many people in this industry struggle with that, and I think maybe that's our business experience coming through. So we don't say, AJ is a great guy, it's a fantastic team, they've got a brilliant community behind them, and we see a number of ways where us working collectively with them is for the greater good for the both of us. And if you can work really well with other actors within the space where you can help each other, then we go back to that market share example that I used, then you both helping each other gain more market share, right? And that's there's so many ways that we've invested in EMP. Actually, AJ is one of our VIPs as well. We've got some very VIPs actually, and but at the same time we've got the pair with MDB Plus eShare. How long that goes on for, I'm not sure. It doesn't really help in terms of our capital ratios and volume, but they're an Infinity partner, so we'll be making a significant investment into them over the next week or so, and they're also supporting us in terms of the run up and launch of Infinity, and then we've got an even bigger announcement tomorrow as well.
Can't wait for that announcement tomorrow. I saw another question from Afiaz. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. She said, I don't use Binance because it's so limited for US citizens. With being on BSC, how complete is the access and options for US citizens in the MDB ecosystem. Is there any kind of restrictions on farming or staking, LP access, anything that would be limited because of securities?
Sorry, who asked that question?
Afia's. She said earlier in the chat, today was her first time hearing about MDB.
Yeah, so look, I think ultimately we run tokens, and tokens sit on the blockchain on a certain system. We're not domiciled in the US. It's the blockchain is an international application, and it's for people in certain jurisdictions all around the world to choose what they access. So I think BNB have a pretty broad reach across all territories, albeit with some more challenges than others in certain markets. But from our perspective, there's no limitations. Xenia is something that is built and available. It's on the blockchain. It's universal, and there's no barriers.
Beautiful. We'll just do like 2, 3, 4 questions maybe, and then wrap up instead of holding you here all day. But next question from Arvin. He said, why so many different token and NFTs inside of the ecosystem? Why not focus on 1 or 2 tokens with multiple utilities and mechanics for price appreciation and whatnot? Yeah, what's the reason for creating so many tokens within your ecosystem?
Yeah, and maybe if you're looking from the outside, you think, "Wow, this is complex. Why don't you just push down on one thing?"
Mm-hmm.
They're very different things. You don't invest in MDB and never touch stables again, right? So the MDB Plus is there to be a utility. Phoenix Plus is we found that people really like MDB Plus. However, it really works to its full potential when you have significant volume. So Phoenix Plus offers a little bit of risk, but it offers much higher reward, and it also drives volume back through the ecosystem as well. And then the gap really is the much more volatile degen side, which is Infinity. So, and even as I would say, there's probably like 3 things there. One is the MDB token, which has huge upside potential, but has some risk. If you're going to buy a share in an organization, that's what you would do. If you were just going to use something as a utility within the organization, then you would use MDB Plus. And if you like to have a couple of beers with your friends and maybe then go to the casino afterwards and try and win big, but that comes with some risk, then that's where you would go for Infinity. So it's just about catering for both different types of investors, but also the different personalities that we all have as investors as well.
Beautiful. Question from OSAS. Are the taxes that you guys have established right now, the buy and sell taxes that have existed in the ecosystem, are those fixed permanently? Do you plan on ever getting rid of taxes or changing them? Are they elastic or are they permanent?
Yeah, at the moment they're a critical part of the ecosystem because they are elastic, obviously, albeit with some limitations. So you couldn't make it. I think you couldn't push them above 30%. We've never actually changed our taxes apart from the transfer tax, which we do tactically to support the protocol if there's a launch coming. Anyway, so to get to the answer, I think taxes are seen as like this big demon. If you're in our protocol and you've been there for a while, the tax is something that you pay to get in, but after 3 months and the protocol's been really good to you, then you'll understand kind of why they're there. They're not there as like a cash grab. However, when we think about where we go longer term, there is a path that we could go down through certain strategic partnerships that we're exploring, where potentially we could look at a CEX listing and maybe even a Binance listing and remove the taxes completely from MDB, albeit then MDB becomes a carrot, if you like, for users to also then come into the Xenia platform. A bit like maybe you could buy and sell the BuySwap token on Binance, but you may then go to BuySwap and then use their ecosystem.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
As I say that, Matthew says, I straight up never touch Binance in the Ledger chat.
Well, someone was asking about like earlier that follow-up question that we had about restrictions on Binance. When I say Binance, I mean like using Binance's exchanges. I would say my most used networks as far as tokens I hold, and I never tell which things that I hold. But is BS. I interact with, I'll say this, I interact with BSC a lot, and I interact with Polygon a lot. I am on other places like Ethereum. I've got a little bit on smaller networks as well, but definitely I'm on the BSC chain all the time. But yeah, Binance is not super US friendly, and Binance US kind of sucks compared to Binance if you're outside of the US. So as far as like trying to answer that question Afia's had earlier, to me, I don't touch Binance as an exchange. That's not where I send my money through. I don't convert anything there just because it isn't very friendly if you're in the US. I think the only way, I think the only way that impacts a token on BSC like MDB is if somehow Binance's restrictions got so unfriendly that people for some reason had like large scale pushback against anything on the ecosystem like BUSD and whatnot. But I have never once interacted with Binance as a network, and I hold tons of BSC. I hold tons of BUSD.
People are very stuffy about Binance, which is that will always be your barrier to making money. By the way, is having emotional. I think I'll call out my friend Massimo because we're buddies now. I think he said it early on in our journey. We sounded like criminals, and then. And now he says, I wish I got in MDB earlier. And I'm playfully just pointing out that, people have this emotional dislike of BSC. But in truth, BSC and Ethereum have the most utility globally. And guess which two chains have outperformed Bitcoin the most over the last few months? Mm-hmm. So when the chips are down and there's less speculation, it's utility that will hold the value of something. So to my friend that asked the question, like I think with a business brain over sort of like any sort of emotional connection with any chain.
Yeah,
and I think the thing as well is just with each chain, ultimately you've got to use the native token of that chain to transact. The gas fees are always in. For BSC, as an example, it's BNB. So you always need to use BNB, but it doesn't necessarily mean you've got to go to Binance to buy BNB. You can use pretty much any exchange in order to get BNB. And then once you're onto the DeFi space, you can just use MetaMask and transact just like you would with anything.
Yeah. So and for sure, like you need to make those kind of decisions on your own. I think that it is. That's totally up to you. Do you want to X out an entire chain because of possibilities in the future? That's up to you. Like, I'm not going to be the one to say that because maybe in the future, a whole chain does have price impact because of regulations from some government. And you can be the one at the end saying, told you so. Or maybe you miss out on a bunch of cool projects on a chain because of the possibility of something happening in the future. And then you're kicking yourself at the end. Either way, I'm not going to predict if you are right or wrong. But I do think you don't need to, how do I say this? You don't need to blame, like I don't look at Ethereum and this, okay, here's how I'll say this. I don't look at Ethereum's network and say, this NFT project sucks because it's on Ethereum. Is it fair to say there might be some price impact on projects because maybe the general population stops liking high gas fees on Ethereum? Yeah, that's fair. Like things that happen on the general network can impact smaller projects on the network. But is it a direct impact all the time or even very likely? Probably not. But it's fair to say that there could be some impact someday. And then that's just up to you. If you don't like BSC, you don't like BSC. I see the utility of BSC, even though they kind of hate the US right now. I see that it's rising a ton. And so it is top 3 stable coins is on BSC. And so I do interact with BSC a lot, even though they make it difficult for people in the US. That's kind of just preference. So.
Yeah, they hate me too.
Yep. They hate India. They hate the US. So
it's more of an age-related concern.
Yep. So. Well, Danny, Godfather, final question for you. As far as anyone that wants to get involved in what you guys have built, maybe they saw that chart that someone posted and they had FOMO. And I'll say this, that's kind of being facetious. Don't buy something just because you have FOMO. Research it, look into it, see the utility. But if someone buying on FOMO is the worst because then you buy you just shoot yourself in the foot. If you are listening to this and they're like, you know what, I really appreciate what the Godfather's talking about. I see the interesting different takes that you guys have got. I see you guys launching and building tons of different things. I got to get involved. What would you say the best way for someone to come get involved in both your community and your ecosystem would be?
Yeah, great question. Look, Discord, we do have a Telegram, but it's Telegram's really challenging, to be honest. So most of what happens on Discord. I would, if you come into the community like, oh, what should I do first? You got, if it's within your capacity, right? I think joining the Millionaires Club is a great starting point, because it's not a significant investment, and then you get all of the other benefits of being in the Millionaires Club, and then take a bit of time to try and understand the ecosystem. I think one of the things that we do recognize with Infinity is we know plenty of people look back at MDB, and despite the fact that we know that we're very early in the mechanics of the protocol will continue long term to move us in one direction, people still feel a bit like maybe they missed out on the start. And obviously Infinity offers a massive opportunity with still the option to play it very safe or be much more aggressive in terms of your approach, and that depends on you as an individual. And Infinity is just around the corner. It's just next week. So but spend time in the community, get on with everybody, and immerse yourself a bit, and I'm sure you'll stay for a long time.
Beautiful. And if you want to join the MDB community, you can see right now, if you're listening, the AMA Deets channel has all of the links. Actually, there's a bunch more in there. Pi dropped the white paper, the Infinity white paper that's releasing. You can see the Obsidian Fire Club. You can see Xenia, the DAP. You can
I just
see
copy pasted everything I could find.
Pretty much all of the links you need if you're interested in deep diving into MDB after this conversation is right there in the AMA Deets channel, and their Discord is there. So I would say jump into their Discord today, right after this. Tell them what's up. Say thank you for an excellent AMA with Obsidian. It's been probably like 3 months since we've had you guys here. It has been a pleasure having you back. And I don't know, maybe we need to do something more with MDB in the future. I think it'd be fun to collab on some kind of community event or something. It's been good talking with you again, Danny.
This is the first time I've talked to you, so pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for taking the time. And Matthew, I always enjoy our conversations. I appreciate you hosting us today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love talking with you. I get excited when I see somebody building. To me, it's a lot less about like, ooh, this one specific idea, though your ideas are solid. It's more about just talking with people that are genuinely putting in the work to build something in this space. And you're not copy and pasting things. You're not just doing what everyone else in the market is doing. That to watch you guys actually build something of your own, I get excited about. And I want to see, we talked about this earlier, especially the Gravity project. 90% of projects are going to fail in the first 12 months. And so I really just enjoy watching people build and see where they go, because that's like the fun of, oh my gosh, who's going to beat it? Who's going to be the one that beats the statistic and the quote unquote buzzword? Who's going to be here in 2 years? Who's going to be here in 5 years? I see that question in every AMA ever, no matter where it's at. Someone's asking, are you guys going to last for 5 years? And I'm scoping out and trying to see who's going to make it. And so I get excited when anyone is passionate about building and putting in work like you guys are. So appreciate you being on the stage, man. And I can't wait for the next time that we have MDB here.
Brilliant. All right. Cheers, guys. Take care.
Cheers.
We'll see you soon, everyone. Check out the event schedule. We got more coming for you.